constitutional speech contest with a theme: the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia, PEKON Konstitusi 13. And also, I want to introduce my partner, Muhammad Ridwan, as a timekeeper for this session. Before we get started, I will read the rules first, so please pay attention closely. First, each contestant is allowed to perform their speech in a minimum of 7 minutes and maximum of 10 minutes. More or less than the time limit, you will get a penalty to your point. Second, for contestants, make sure that the device you are using in your connection and network are in good condition. If you accidentally leave a meeting room, we will give you 2 minutes tolerance on 2 occasions so you can rejoin. Alright, I think that's enough and clear. Now what we are waiting for, with this, our English constitutional speech competition of PEKON Konstitusi 13 with the theme, the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia, begin. So the first contestant is Sharvina Audrey M. To Sharvina, are you here? Please turn on your camera and your microphone. Yes. Okay, before you rotate your camera from right to the left or show us around you and make sure there is no paper or anything that will interfere or disturb you later.
Wait, let me turn off my background.
Turn off the background first. Okay, enough. Now you can start your speech. Good luck.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To the honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let us praise and thank the presence of Allah Almighty for the abundance of grace and joy so that we can still gather in today's occasion, even in this pandemic situation. Let's not forget the salawat and greetings we pour to our great Prophet Muhammad, whom his intercessions we look forward to both in this world and in the hereafter. I would also like to thank Andalas University for giving me opportunity to deliver my speech. The theme of my speech today will be called the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia. Now, let's start. As we all know, Indonesia is a country that is located between 2 oceans and 2 continents, making its location very strategic. Also, some of the cultures in Indonesia are influenced by other foreign countries, resulting Indonesia as a country consisting thousands of customary laws. The people who make customary laws are called indigenous people. The term indigenous people was first introduced by Van Vollenhoven to indicate the natives of Indonesia. Now, to begin with, you might be asking, what is customary law? Let me explain that for you. Customary law is an unwritten law that has been passed down from generations to generations for many years. Customary law is made based on someone's belief of the proper way of life based on their sense of justice and decency. Customary law is also a legal system of the social life that is known among other Asian countries, such as China, Japan, and India. So, customary law is basically Indonesia's first and original law. You see, long before the introduction of foreign cultures, the Indonesian society was thought to be governed by the values of customary law, or as the Indonesians call it, adat. Adat is a binding norm that is preserved and protected by the society to manage the daily lives of humanity. And hence, adat is a law in and of itself. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is a country that is built from hundreds, if not thousands, of sovereign and independent nations. There is an existing value system within each culture, language, ethnicity, and religion that has evolved through a very long time. Now let's get back to customary law for a little bit. You see, customary law is an essential source of materials for the development of national law, which I'll explain later. Now, why is it considered important? It is because customary law leads to the unification of the formulation or the making of laws and regulations while still respecting the growth and development of customary law itself. Now, let me explain you something I know about national law. Now, what exactly is national law? Well, national law is a legislation or a regulation that is based on an ideological and constitutional basis. For example, Pancasila and the 1945 Constitution. Also, every citizen must understand the national law. You see, the development of customary law to create national law is essentially an effort to modernize the law so that our law can be in tune with the progress and development of the times. This process requires full caution and balance so that none of the sides weighs more than the other. However, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. What if we don't have customary law? What if it never existed in the very first place? And what if indigenous people didn't have any culture at all? You see, as I've mentioned before, customary law is the foundation or base in the making of national law in Indonesia. So if it doesn't exist, then there would be no customary law. Then there would be no national law at all, right? Now, if there are no indigenous people, then there would be no customary law because culture determines customary laws themselves. I'll give you one example of a customary law that is used as a national law in the present day. It is sites and sacred sites protection. In this case, let's say that is the Borobudur Temple. Decades or even centuries before, the Borobudur Temple is used in
Recording in progress.
In traditional rituals and ceremonies. Therefore, it is protected by the people who use it, correct? Nowadays, it is still protected and preserved by the government. It is still managed for the same use and can even be useful in other aspects, such as tourism. Other examples include marriage ceremonies, funeral ceremonies, and a lot more. You see, since customary law is rooted in folk culture, it expresses real and living legal feelings among the people. It also reflects the personality of the people and nation. Therefore, if it doesn't exist, and we, by any chance, live by following other countries' law, it would just outspokenly means that our identity and personality as a nation is valueless. And that is not really a good thing to hear, is it? Considering that Indonesia is a country with various cultures. Now, so in conclusion, the law we obey today is built on decades of customary law development. Now, those laws couldn't have existed if it isn't because of indigenous people. You see, indigenous people play a major role in creating the basis of national law in Indonesia, thanks to their various cultures. So, as a good citizen, we must obey the existing law whilst preserving our culture. I think that is all from me. My name is Sharfina Aureliano, and I'm representing a senior high school Pekanbaru. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, so that's 7 minutes, 7 seconds from Sharpina. For the next contestant is Aisha Ataki. To Aisha, please turn on your camera and your microphone.
Oke, Kak. Udah jelas suaranya, Kak?
Iya, sudah jelas.
Kalau sambil duduk, nggak apa-apa kan, Kak?
Tidak
Soalnya
apa-apa.
kalau berdiri suaranya nggak kedengaran nanti, Kak.
Oke, siap. Okay, we will do a clearing area first. You can rotate your camera from right to the left and show us around you and make sure there is no paper or anything that will disturb you later. Please turn off the background first.
Oh, background. Okay, Kak. Um, okay.
Rotate your camera from right to the left. Make sure there is no paper or anything.
Paper. Cuma ada apa? No paper in here.
Okay, now you can start your speech. Good luck.
Honorable judges, all of audience in here. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let's express our gratitude to Allah who has given us mercy and blessing, so we can meet together in this contest. Secondly, my salat and salam to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has brought us from the darkness to the brightness like today. And last but not least, I'd like to thank the committee for giving me opportunity to deliver my speech. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aisyah Yadaki and a student of one senior high school of Sumatera Barat. So I'm going to deliver a speech about the law for indigenous people in Indonesia. Well, I give a question. Have you ever read articles about intertribal warfare in Indonesia? Or have you ever watched a news about fight between tribes? Or have you seen an unethical condition in an area with regard to the humanity prevailing in this country? Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that the awareness role of the backward indigenous regarding Indonesian law is still very low? Many people still don't care and don't understand what Indonesian law itself is. There are some indigenous people who still use traditional law, the strong are in power, and their judgments are sometimes unethical. In the past, there were so many behaviors and punishments, such as being burned alive, tortured to death, where women were humiliated, slavery, abuse, especially against the weak, which for them was a very dark period. Even today, in some interland, we can still find neglected ethics. There are some indigenous tribes who only naked in front of the maze and solve a problem by physical fighting or violence. But before that, we need to explore what the cause of the backwardness in ethics and laws in Indonesia. Have they ever been educated about the laws in this country? Has the new information and the many of infrastructure facilities has entered their area? So let's see. On the one side, otherwise, in some interland, there are still very few facilities and infrastructure. Education in interland is still very minimal, so that the hope of releasing indigenous island who understand the law is still very low. As for learning to read, they can let be alone study about the laws in this country. Well, on the other side, maybe some indigenous people from interland have started to enter the modern world, but education has entered their area. They can read, write, count, and it is not difficult for them to learn and understand about the laws in this country. Let's look at one of the indigenous tribes, namely the Mentawai tribe. On the island of Siberut Mentawai, traditional law it is known as the law, or agreement passed down from the ancestor to this day. The law is a traditional law by giving fines to the criminal of crimes. On the positive side, the law can regulate the lives of many people. especially for people that not commit acts that violate traditional law in the Mentawai. And on the negative side, too many fines are set so that economy of people affected by the law becomes drastically. From the previous explanation, it can be concluded traditional law still needs to be linked to existing law in Indonesia. What if the fines paid do not match with the crimes they committed? Or there are illegal levies from behind the receipt of the fine? Of course, there's still a need for court judges, prosecutor, legal advisor to assess how severe the punishment should be, and certainly be keep away from illegal levies to the criminal of crimes. Therefore, education about the law is still need to people, but still use traditional law which is contrary to existing law in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, so we can start with education by building facilities and maximizing education for people in Interlane, including ethics and laws in Indonesia. In the education, it is not only about us knowing what the meaning of the law is, but we also understand what is released by the law itself. The law is a tool to bind us, but we are the ones who will determine our way of life with the laws. And for teenagers who will become leaders in the next generation, a high awareness about the law is needed, especially for teenagers who still lives in interlane environment. With legal awareness, it is hoped that they can make the progress for the region, and of course, for our country as well. It is hoped the natives can lead our country in a just and peaceful manner, so that the corruption, bribes, illegal levies, and other crime can be overcome. Well, in the Mentawai itself, several areas such as the island of Sipora has begun experience modernization. And the Mentawai also have program for teenager education called ADEM. This program aims to promote and support for youth talent by providing scholarship and facilities. With running this program, hopefully, other programs will follow for Interlane and can make indigenous children smarter and critical of the laws of our country. So, message for all indigenous and people in Indonesia. Let's together build this country for the better. Let's lead this country into a country that understands police in Indonesia. There is no discrimination between the rich and the poor. There is no difference between the city's people and the villagers. There is no conflict that can cause loss of life. And there is no law in Indonesia that can make someone cry between their lips. Let's build this country into a democracy with the laws that can make this nation smile again. I hope you guys to enjoy my speech. And I know I made a lot of mistake. But then again, I'm only human. So that I'm so sorry and thank you for attention. Don't forget about this. This is our country, our Indonesia. That's we love it. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. 40 seconds from Aisyah. Let's move. Next is Ahmad Farel. Okay.
Kak, sudah kedengaran jelas suara saya, Kak?
Okay, sudah terdengar. We will do a first. You can rotate your camera from right to the left, show us there around you, and make sure there is no any paper. Okay, I think that's enough. You can start your speech. Live.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, I would like to give a speech about the role of indigenous people in the development of Indonesia. Is it an important role, a small role, or is it a burden for Allah? Well, I'm going to explain it. Listen carefully, okay? So, we live in Indonesia. Indonesia is a country that is a large country that is connected by a huge and ocean around us. And this country has so many ethnicities, languages, traditions, religions, and beautiful cultures that shapes Indonesia to this day. But first, let's take a look back on how Indonesia is built. Indonesia is a nation built from hundreds of diverse nation and ethnic groups have law. But now all same national law. National law in this country, in Indonesia, is based on Pancasila, which is our country ideology, and the nation that is the basis of laws in this country. And national law consists of a mixture of systems from religious law, European law, and the customary law that we're going to talk about. Religious law easily comes from the majority of Indonesian people, that is Muslim. European law specifically comes from the Netherlands because we are colonized by the Dutch in the past. We all know that. But long before those laws are used, customary law system is the first law that is implemented in different parts of our nation. At that time, Indonesian people were regulated by the values of tradition and custom law that we call adat. So adat is one of the characteristics of Indonesian culture because it has been in this country for a long time. And it is a law that is set by the indigenous people. Well, indigenous people is the native people in this country, the first people that step their foot in this country. Before we are being colonized, they are already in this country to shape our country. So indigenous people have this set of rules or code that is unwritten. It's not like our constitution, but this unwritten rule was governing all aspects of personal life from birth to death, marriage, inheritance, land rights, and even how we interact with each other is regulated by this law. So adat is basically a law that is unwritten, right? And it's built from every habit and the feelings of the society in their own respective group and community. And it has been grown hundreds of years ago, but it still be used by the majority of people today for solving their problems or just for their daily lives. For example, in West Sumatra, Minangkabau, we have a law that is called Katonan Ampik, which is a law to regulate how we communicate with each other, how we talk to people older than us, younger than us, and even the same age with us. And I believe that many of us in here have our own customary law, right? That is taught by our parents, our family, and our community, and we even raised by it and live with it. But the problem arises with the customary law. The problem is people will be asking, can the customary law still be used for solving problems that exist in society today? And can it be used for the development of law in Indonesia? Well, in this modern day, we've seen many times of our formal law is collided with the customary law of the indigenous people because some of those law is not compatible. For example, in West Sumatra again, we have a law about land rights where there are pusako tinggi that you cannot just buy or sell the land that is inherited by certain people. You need to get the permission to do that. And because formal law didn't have a rule for that, didn't have a law for that, then customary law may be able to solve it, but it's not that simple because we have thousands of customary law in this country and it's all different from each other. We can't just pick them all. We can't just you pick them all to make that written. We can't do that. We have to know how do we manage these thousands of customary law working for us without colliding it with other laws of the court, especially our national law. And to know that, we have to understand fully about our national law and how this customary law can be used for the development of law in Indonesia. Well, I think customer law can be applied to society today, but we have to take it carefully because customary law must be in line with the values of Pancasila as the ideology of our country, and it must fulfill some requirements to be used. First, okay, the requirements is first, the customary law should not collide with the purpose of our nation. Second, it should not contradict with our national state philosophy of Pancasila. And then it should not conflict with the written regulation, that is our 1945 Constitution, and then it can be accepted by the people of this country. So, customary law by the indigenous people is necessary for the development of law in Indonesia, but not all customary law can be applied. Customary law that is required is only the law that is aligned with the current condition and developments in this country, and as long as it is not contradicting Pancasila in the 1945 Constitution, we can use it. For example, we have a national agrarian law, right, that is based on customary law, and that is the agrarian law does not contradict our national law or religious law in this country. That's one example, but it's not always converting customary law to written law, but we just need to respect it so we can protect the rights of indigenous people too. So the conclusion is indigenous people with their customary law, with our customary law, may have an important role for the development of law in Indonesia, because some of those laws can still be used for solving problems that exist in society today. And we can combine the making of laws and regulation without ignoring the growth and the development of the customary law. And also, we have to remember that Pancasila as a source of national law is very meaningful to the customary law because it is rooted in the feelings among the society in this country, and it reflects the personality of Indonesian people, especially the indigenous people. Well, I think that's all I can say. I hope with this speech we can respect customary law more so that we can protect the rights of indigenous people too, so that we can have a better law in this country. Thank you for your attention. Sorry if I made some mistake. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So the time is 8 minutes, 7 seconds. Okay, for the next contestant is Aisyah Aulia R. Aisyah, are you here? Please turn on your camera and your microphone. Okay, like we did before with other contestants, we will do clear area first. Please rotate your camera from right to the left. Make sure there is no any paper or anything that will disturb you later. Okay, I think that's enough. You can start your speech. Good luck.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aisyah Rahmat and I'm from SMAN 1 Kubo. First of all, let us thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who gave us a blessing so we can be here today. Salawat and salam to our Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness era to the brightness era. I would like also to say many thanks to the jurists and MC who have given me an opportunity to deliver my speech in front of you all. In this golden opportunity, I would like to deliver a speech about the role of the indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia. Indonesia is a country that adheres to a democratic system. This system is a system of government run by the people and for the people. In addition, Indonesia is a country that adheres the purity in the field of law, where there are three laws whose existence is recognized and enforced, namely Western law, religious law, and customary law. In practice, each region in Indonesia has its customary law system to regulate diverse social life, and most of the customary law is not in the form of the written rules. Here, I shall explain what a customary law community is. Customary law community is a group of people who have lived in a certain geographical area for generations because of ties to ancestral origin, a strong relationship with the environment, as well as a value system that determines economic institution, social, and law. Ladies and gentlemen, the existence of this customary law has been officially the state recognizes that as in respect the customary law needs and their traditional right as long as they are still alive and following developments, society, and the prayer state of the Republic of Indonesia, which are regulated in law. It means that the state recognizes the extent of the customary law and constitutional right in the Indonesian legal system. And besides that, it is customary law plays a role in the development of law in the Indonesia as an important source for obtaining materials for development of national law, which lead to the unity of the making laws and regulation without neglecting the growth and development of the customary law and customary law habits. Pancasila as the legal order is very meaningful for the customary law because customary law is a law rooted in people's culture so that it can produce a real legal form and live in the society and reflect the personality of the Indonesian nation, especially the customary law community. Customary law has a role in the formation of the basic agrarian law, namely as the main basis for the national agrarian law and customary law as a complement so that there is no legal vacuum if the existing written law is considered incomplete and unfinished. One example of the customary law that exists in Indonesia is the Minangkabau customary law, which is the basis for the power of the Raja or Penghulu, the customary community leaders, and it used in carrying out the daily leadership of the indigenous people. The legal basis is a tradition that inherited from generation to generation, an Islamic law that has been embraced by the Minangkabau community. For example, the role of the Kerapatan Adat Nagari in resolving native society dispute. One of the tasks of the Kerapatan Adat Nagari is to settle civil and custom cases, including resolving native society dispute. In Article 12, Paragraph 1 of the West Sumatra Regional Regulation concerning the customary land and its use, it is explained that the customary dispute in Nagari are resolved by according to the provision as long as the applicable custom is Bajanjang Naik Batambo Turun. And in the word of peace through a deliberation by way of peace through deliberation and consensus in the form of the peace decision. The provision of this article indicates the settlement of dispute outside the court with a non-litigation process. The position of the Kerapatan Adat Nagari is interpreted as is not as a party to decide the case, but to continue that the customary issues that arise from the dispute. The customary code owned by the Kerapatan Adat Nagari is interpreted as a process, namely a way to resolve a customer dispute by a customary institution. Ladies and gentlemen, from this discussion, we can conclude that the customary law has a very important role in the development of law in Indonesia. One example, which is the role of the Kerapatan Adat Nagari in resolving dispute over native society land. So, let us apply our customary law in our region in order our culture is not lost to the masses, because customary law is a reference material for the development of law in Indonesia and a reflection of the Indonesian personality. That's all my speech today. I hope it can be useful for all of us. Thank you for your attention. Good morning and thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The time is 7 minutes, 27 seconds. Next contestant is Belvaraina Suraya. Belvaraina, please turn on your camera. Okay, we will do clearing area first. Please rotate your camera from right to the left and show us there is no any paper or anything. Okay, I think that's enough. Now we can start. Good luck.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, the honorable judges, committee, and audiences. Before I begin, I would like to give my greatest thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us mercies and blessings. I would also like to thank Andalas University for creating this competition and has given me the opportunity to compete here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Belvaraina Suraya, and I'm here as a representative of 8th State Senior High School, Pekanbaru. In this occasion, I would like to deliver my speech entitled The Role of Indigenous People in the Development of Law in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, Indonesia is a huge country. The populations in Indonesia reach the number of 271 million. With that many populations, Indonesia is filled with diversity, such as ethnicity, language, religion, race, and many others. And because of that diversity, Indonesia needs law to regulate the daily lives. Now, ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered what is the first law that has ever applied in Indonesia? Well, the answer is customary law in Indonesia. According to Van Vollenhoven, customary law is a compilation of regulations related to the behavior and attitude that indigenous people and foreigners should follow in a community. Because in one hand, it entails sanction and penalty, it consists of local laws, and in other hand, it is not a subject of codification because it is a tradition. Customary law in Indonesia is a law that is in the form of unwritten law because it is applied in the daily lives of indigenous people, and it is passed down orally from generations to generations. Customary law has also existed long before Indonesia even became independent. So, ladies and gentlemen, what happened to the law after Indonesia became independent? Well, of course, the law needs development, which basically is an effort to make a positive and modernized law. In order to make a positive development to the law, we need noble values. These noble values already exist in the society in Indonesia, and we can find those noble values on customary law. Customary law has the basic foundation of noble values that will become the main capital for the law development and modernization in Indonesia. The national law can be well applied if the base of it comes from the behavior of the people itself. Now, another development to the law is in the form of it. The law system in Indonesia is affected by the law system from Europe, where the law is in the written form. So, the national law eventually developed into a written law, and it is mixed with the noble values of customary law. We can see the embodiment of it in Pancasila. The noble values of customary law resembles the contents of Pancasila, like believing in God, humanity, unity, consensus, and justice. Therefore, Pancasila is the embodiment of customary law. Now, ladies and gentlemen, even though the national law has been established, if we take a look around us, we can see that customary law still exists. Why? Well, first of all, as I have mentioned before, customary law has already strongly applied in the daily lives of indigenous people, and we can never completely erase the existence of it, as the national law itself is based on customary law. For instance, gotong royong. Gotong royong is a tradition that came from the indigenous people, and it has existed for a very long time, and it is still applied until now. It is also consistent with the fifth moral principle of Pancasila. Second of all, customary law is also still maintained as a form of cultural preservation. We need to preserve it as every region in Indonesia has their own customary law. But even so, we can't force it to one another because each customary law is the true identity of each region. For example, if we force Javanese customary law on Myanmarese people, of course, it will result in contradiction, because it is not corresponding with the customary law of Myanmarese people. And that is why the national law is there to regulate the whole citizens of Indonesia without any differentiation and is in accordance with the 1945 Constitution, which is the supreme source of law in Indonesia. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gets us wonder, is customary law legally recognized by the state? Well, the legal statement about it can be found in Article 18B, Paragraph 2 of 1945 Constitution, where the state recognizes the existence of indigenous people and their rights in the territorial territories of indigenous people. Besides that, we can also find it in Article 24F of 1945 Constitution, which determines that the state arrange and develop the values of law and the sources of law that lives in the society. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia is very important. And the national written law that has occurred until now must be obeyed to create an orderly life of nation and state. Meanwhile, the unwritten law as the basic law of indigenous people should still be maintained and preserved as one of the efforts of cultural preservation. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is all from me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Wilfarina. So that's 7 minutes for the second speech from Wilfarina. For the next contestant is Tiara Rinelva. Tiara, can you turn on your camera and your microphone? Okay, we will do clearing area. Please rotate your camera. Okay, I think that's enough. You can start your speech. Good luck.
Okay. Am I audible? Firstly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Dear honorable judges, my beloved teacher and friends, and for all amazing audience here, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to thank to our mighty God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because as we know, this world will never exist without His almightiness, the God of our freckles of dust to the vastness of the universe. Praise to Him and thanks to Him for all the things He has granted to us. And may we not forget our salawat and salam may be delivered to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam along with his families and his fellow followers until the end of the time. And last but not least, I'd like to thank to judges and my teacher that give me this special opportunity to join this contest. My beloved audience, good morning. My name is Tiara Rinelva. I'm from SMA Negeri 1 Padang Panjang, standing here to deliver my speech about the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia for all of you here. Ladies and gentlemen, what comes to your mind when you hear the word of indigenous people? Is it about customary law, culture, inland tribes, or what? Well, whatever indigenous people mean to you, for me, indigenous people are part of Indonesia's society, which is a law subject we can define as a law alliances that is naturally formed because of the development in social, economic, nor politics. Ladies and gentlemen, in-depth understanding about indigenous people need to be internalized in two vectors, which is territorial vector and genealogy vector, which is the basic for the formation and the continuity of life of indigenous people. One example of indigenous people is Nagari in Minangkabau, West Sumatra, that is connected in both genealogies and territorial. Nagari is formed from society arrangement based on lineage, which is genealogies matrilineal. This arrangement starts from Parwit. Parwit here means extended family that consists of several main families. The development of Parwit that will become kaum, and the combination of kaum that will become suku or ethnic. Ethnic here means blood ties, but it doesn't have to tie up, and it's bounded by territorial. Nagari has a privilege, and it's different with village. Nagari is a unit that has its own wilayah area, has people, has nephew or anak kemenakan, and has a government structure that works traditionally. Nagari is a set of several jorongs that have the same purpose and the same principle. Nagari is led by Nagari Guardian, or we call here as Wali Nagari. My beloved audience, when we talk about indigenous people, it definitely means that we will also talk about customary law. Why? Because as we all know, customary law is formed by indigenous people. And start from here, we can see the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia is lies on customary law. So what is exactly is mean by customary law? According to Van Vollenhoven, customary law is the overall rule of community behavior that apply and have sanctioned and have not been codified. According to Tirhar, customary law is the whole set of regulations that are embodied in customary decisions and applied spontaneously. It can be concluded that the customary law is an unwritten norm or regulation that is made to regulate people behavior and have sanction. When talking about law, I think we must to know about law system in Indonesia in the very first place. Indonesia has a plural legal system. It means that Indonesian law is an integration of three law systems, namely Islamic law system, Western law system, and customary law system. These three law systems are part of positive law, which means that these three law systems are still used in the Indonesia national law, including customary law. The existence of customary law itself has been recognized by the state, but the use is limited. Referring to Article 18B, Section 2 of Constitution of 1945, which states, the state recognize and respect customary law community unit and their traditional right as long as they are still alive and in accordance with community development and the principle of the unitary state of Republic of Indonesia, which are regulated in law. Ladies and gentlemen, customary law as an unwritten norm has an influence in the development of law in Indonesia. Even when a judge faces a case where no written law is found, the judge is obliged to explore the value that live and develop in the society in order to decide the case. It means that the judge must to understand about customary law in the very first place in carrying out their duties and authorities. Customary law as a part of positive law, customary law as a part of customary law, in addition to requiring guidance directed at national unity and development as a living law and as a law in accordance with the people's view of life, ideals and legal awareness is the one of the important sources for obtaining materials for the construction of a new national law. As the relationship with the issue of legislation, it is the development of customary law without neglecting the emergence and growth and the development of customary law will mainly be carried out through the making of law and regulation. So it can be concluded that the development of positive law cannot be separated from the role of customary law in a play for the views for the values and views and aspiration for the community towards the development of the customary law, which means that customary law is applied to legislation as a source of law. However, we also need to realize that not all customary law can be used as a reference because, firstly, it must be adjusted to the time and era right now and choose based on the legal pattern that exists today. Ladies and gentlemen, based on what I told you before, we can know how important indigenous people as the people who make customary law for the development of law in our beloved country, Indonesia. And I hope after you hear my speech today, it can make you interested and want to learn more about indigenous people, or maybe law, or maybe Indonesia itself. So that's all from me, an extraordinary girl who have a really big interest and spirit for Indonesia. But before I close my speech, let me give a poem for all audience here. Verb 2 of see is sound. Verb 1 of song is sing. When young generation cares about law, saying that Indonesia is progressing. That's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The time is 8 minutes, 9 seconds. For the next contestant is Haura Yasmin.
Yes.
Haura Yasmin, please turn on your camera and your microphone. Okay, before you start, we will do clearing area. Please rotate your camera from right to the left and make sure there is no any paper.
Recording in
permeates the world
progress.
to all the mankind. Salawat and salam be upon to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who saved the human life from destruction in the safety that's the right path of Allah. Thanks today, all of you have a good mood and condition too. First, let me introduce myself. My name's Haura Yasmin, or commonly called Haura. I'm currently studying in Babu Salam Senior High School. So, in this exceptional opportunity, I will deliver a speech with the theme, the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, before entering the content of the speech, I will explain a little about what the law is. Law is a regulation in the form of norms and sanctions made to maintain order, justice, and prevent chaos. Indonesia is a country that adheres to a mixed legal system, with the main legal system, namely the continental European legal system. In addition to the continental European legal system, Indonesia also applies the customary law system, the religious legal system, and the Western legal system. So, in my speech this time, I will discuss and explain what the customary law is and its role in Indonesian law. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Professor Mr. C. Vollenhoven, as the father of customary law is the whole positive code which conduct on the one hand has sanctions and on the other hand is not codified. Legally, customary law is the rule that is the result of traditional practices and customs over time. This is recognized by the court and can complement the law as long as it does not conflict with other legal texts.
Recording in progress.
Majority belief in the parliament must resign. Rules like this do not exist in any law, but they are common. There is no legal obligation for this minister to over his resignation, but this is a set of habit of national politics. Indigenous people are genealogical parents who inherit genealogical customary law communities. Customary law communities are formed by two main factors, namely genealogical or blood relationship and territorial, for example, like village. Customary law communities based on genealogy are grouped into three, namely patrilineal, matrilineal, and parental. For example, the customary law that applies in Minangkabau. In Minangkabau custom, there is inheritance law. Matrilineal system has been existed since long time ago. According to Minangkabau customary law, someone, a group, will get inheritance from their grandmother or their uncle from mother that called the high legacy. And they are not allowed to sell or just give it to anyone. They are just allowed to using and controlling this high legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, customary law developed following the development of society and existing folk traditions. In its development, the practice that occurs to customary law communities, the existence of customary law often raises questions. Whether these customary law rules can still be used to regulate people's daily activities and can resolve the problems that arise in customary law communities. Meanwhile, our country also has legal rules that made by lawmaking bodies or institutions and other laws and regulations. Customary law and
Recording in progress.
the
Recording
Sharia,
in progress.
and so the Sharia is based on the Quran. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of my speech today. As a human being, I realize that I can't avoid the mistakes, so I apologize to you all. And I don't forget to say thank you so much for your nice attention. For the last, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, so that's 7 minutes, 11 second speech from Haura. Next, Ulfi Azahra. Ulfi, can you turn on your camera and your microphone? Okay, langsung saja, we'll do clearing area first. Rotate your camera, show us around you, and make sure there is no any paper.
Any paper?
No, you cannot bring your paper.
Excuse me, sorry, we are using a computer. It's hard to rotate it.
Okay, just make sure there is no any paper or anything that will disturb you. Okay.
Okay.
You cannot nggak boleh bawa kertas ya.
It's my property. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So you're using your property.
Yes.
Okay, I think you can start. Good luck.
Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. There has often been a horizontal conflict in community that has led to the customary land ownership disputes in West Sumatra. Just like in this article, or and like this article, and like this one. And it even creates a hostility between people who live in the same village, thus creating an unfavorable situation in association between communities. I am Ulfia Zahra, and I'm from Sunny High Tree of West Sumatra. Thank you for the honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me the opportunity to deliver my speech. Based on our theme, the role of indigenous people in developing of law in Indonesia, I will be focusing on the role of penghulu as representative of indigenous people dealing with never-ending customary land ownership disputes in West Sumatra. In my speech, I'm going to use term ulayat land for the customary land ownership. Before I'm going through further in my speech, I'm going to define what the penghulu is based on a local regulation number 1. In a local regulation number 1, it is said that penghulu is a leader in a tribe or clan. He is a holder of ulayat rights over the sako, which is known as the leadership title, and a pusako, which is known as the inheritance property. Meanwhile, the head of inheritance is the eldest male or the elder in Jurai or Pare. As we know, in West Sumatra, the community only follows the head of inheritance, such as penghulu. The penghulu, who is given a mandate to protect the ulayat land so that its existence continues to the function for the welfare of indigenous people. However, it is unfortunate when the trust have given to them by their indigenous people is unsatisfying. Most conflict raises between the investors and the indigenous people. In this case, sometimes the penghulu don't have any power to protect the ulayat land. And you know what the worst thing? Yeah, the worst thing is they used it for more personal interest, enriching themselves, and tend to borrow some money from other people so that they can sell or transfer the ulayat land to the foreigners. So what do you think? Is it a mistake that penghulu has made, or can ulayat land be traded or certificated at the National Land Agency so it becomes an individual property or legal entity? Meanwhile, the ulayat land cannot be traded, and it's not an object of land registration by Government Regulation number 24 of 1997 concerning land registration. In fact, the law itself is synonymous with a certainty right. Based on the 45 Constitution, it is explained that Indonesia is a state of law. The consequence as a state of law that every citizen is bound by applicable laws and regulations. As a state of law, the recognition of the rights to the ownership has been regulated in the various laws and regulations. These rules bind every citizen and the government itself in order to create a guarantee for legal certainty regarding human rights. Well, the ULEDLAN also mentioned in Article 3 of Law Number 5 of 1960 and the basic regulation on agrarian principle, which reads by remembering the provisions of Article 1 and the provisions of Article 2, which similar rights to the customary law communities. As long as it still exists, there must be such the way that it is in accordance to the national and the state interest, which are based on a national unity and must not have a conflict with the other law or the other higher regulation. The honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, at the implementing level of regulation, there are amendments to the government regulation. But in this regulation, the ulayat land cannot be included to the land registration. In this case, there is no legal certainty for the ulayat land. The rights of ulayat lands are respected, but at the implementation in the form of a certificate evidence on the land registration process is not recognized. That's why there's a lot of customary lands of indigenous people out there are between life and death. 2 years later, the guidelines for the settlement customary rights issues of indigenous people was ratified. It is stated that ulayat land is a parcel of a land on the ulayat rights on a certain customary law communities. Meanwhile, what is meant by the customary law communities is a group of people who are bound by their customary laws and because the similarity of the residents or the basis of descent. Be controlled by individuals or legally. This of course confuses the legal community. And this of course confuses the legal community and the customary law in the absence of clear legal certainty for protecting their rights. The honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen. So what makes it confusing is when the ruler and the owner can give a share the ulayat land to the individuals, or it can be registered because it is done continuously and it becomes the source of life. What needs to be understood is the conflict will occur when there is no legal certainty in the form of a clear legal rules regarding ulayat land. From all the articles of regional regulation that I've told, the position of the penghulu will be vulnerable to temptation for any party to control the ulayat land. The honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen. So what penghulu can do so that the ulayat land disputes will over? Firstly, the penghulu have to involve in the preparation of laws and regulations teamwork. Secondly, on the other side, the penghulu have to conduct a public sharing with the penghulu in a meeting for preparation of laws and regulations. And the government also have to conduct a valid test on a certain object or certain parties, and the penghulu must be the one of the parties. And the last thing is the penghulu have to participate at publishing draft laws and regulations to get the community feedback. Therefore, I believe involving penghulu and the preparation and implementation at the national preparation and implementation national law will contribute to the development of Indonesian law. I think that was all of my speech. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, the time is 7 minutes 49 seconds. Next, contestant is.
I can cover it, right? It looks like natural.
Okay. Next contestant is Nashwa Dwi Maharani. Nashwa, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, take your camera and show us your around you.
Okay, this is my view. Is my voice here?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Okay, you can start. Good luck.
Okay. The honorable judges, respected audience, and everyone who watched this. watch me in this occasion. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to thank the Almighty God. It is because of it we're all able to attend this event. Secondly, may salawat and salam always be delivered to our Prophet Muhammad SAW, who are brought out from the darkness into this bright modern era that we live in today. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Nashwa Dwi Maharani and I'm from Senior High School Number 1 Pangkal Pinang. Being here before you all to deliver my speech. At this moment, I will tell you about how to elaborate positive customary values into Indonesian positive law. Indonesia is a country that adheres to plurality in the fields of law, where there are 3 laws which are recognized and enforced: concern law, use law, and customary law. As one of the recognized and applicable laws, customary law actually existed in Indonesian society long before the arrival of the Dutch. During the colonialism in Indonesia, the Dutch government even recognized the existence of customary law and adopted it into the legislation at that time, namely the Indies Stadregeling or IS. This is stated in Article number 131 IS.5 and Article number 163 IS concerning the classification of the population in Indonesia. In addition, there is also a theory by Van Vollenhoven and Snow Harry-Grange regarding the application of customary law in Indonesia, known as receptio theory. Receptio theory explained that the law applies to the people of the Netherlands. In this is the original customary law. Thus, customary law is being the basis of the law used during the colonial era, especially for the indigenous people or group. Based on this description, it can be seen that before getting to know the various legal system as currently developed, Indonesian people basically live by a very simple law known as customary law. According to the Van Vollenhoven, customary law is overall rules of community behavior that apply and have sanctioned and haven't been codified. The customary law of each region is not the same from one another. Customary law is generally used as a regulator of these daily activities and as well as problem solving. The existence of the customary law has been officially recognized by the state, but its use is limited. Referring to Article number 18B, paragraph 2 of the 1945 Constitution of the Republic of Indonesia, which means that the state recognized the existence of customary law and its constitutional rights in the Indonesian legal system. Besides, it's also regulated in Article number 3 of Law 5 year 1916 concerning agrarian principles. However, this efforts shouldn't stop there. There are many customary law rules that can be adapted so that they can help the effort to produce various legal products in other fields. Although customary law is often an unwritten law, the community doesn't feel compelled to follow the customary law because customary law has received recognition within the community itself. In various aspects, other customary laws are still often ignored, where the law contained in national law should live in customary law and vice versa. Customary law is also a dynamic law in relation to the development of society. Thus, because the existence of customary law is essentially rooted in a sense of community justice. The character of the law in it follows the thinking of the community in certain cases. So why don't we use the management mechanism that exists in customary law for the development of law in Indonesia? One of the pieces of evidence where customary law values relate to environmental and resource management are adapted into laws and regulations can be seen in lived by Papua people. In Papua, the existence of forests is very prioritized because Papua's forests are considered to be the last bastion of rainforest in Indonesia. However, there has been forest destruction due to investors entering mountainous area, which result in heavy flooding. The protection of the forest has been carried out by Papuan people for a very long time. Papua Province draft several special regional regulations number 21 and 23, 2008 concerning the sustainable forest management in Papua Province and concerning the rights of indigenous people and indigenous people's individual rights to land. They show the role of the indigenous people in Papua in protecting their forests. They have been create a government regulation derived from customary law in order to preserve the environmental and resource management owned by the region. The action of the indigenous people in Papua in seeking environmental and resource protection are considered to be applicable to the national legal system. The management mechanism will be able to apply properly if it is stipulated in the product of national legislation related to environmental protection, especially customary land and the preservation of natural resources. In addition, this effort must be accompanied by incorporating the role of customary law communities into the legal product so as to maximize the effectiveness of its implementation. This effort needs considering that so far there are still many irregularities that occur in the field related to the land rights dispute that occur between customary law communities and private investors. This can be happen because the legal basis government, this matter is only limited to local regulation. In fact, customary law related to customary land has been regulated in the law of agrarian principle, and the state has an obligation to protect these rights. With the adoption of the management of the environment and natural resources that live and develop in indigenous people into national legal product, it is a hope that a situation that is better than this current situation will be realized. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for my speech. I hope we'll learn something new from it and enjoy it. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Nashwa, for your 7 minutes 40-second speech. Next is Chindi Rahmawati. Chindi, please turn on your camera and your microphone. Okay, Chindi, can you rotate your camera and make sure there is no any paper and show us around you? Okay, I think that's enough. Now you can start your speech. Good luck.
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Excuse me, can I start it?
Yes, you can start. Jadi, silakan memulai.
Honorable judges, respect the audience and everyone here today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. When Emil Durkheim said, when mores are sufficient, laws are unnecessary. When mores are insufficient, laws are unenforceable. For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this world will never exist without His Almightiness, the God of all the greatness to the vastness of this universe. Praises to Him and thanks to Him for all things has granted us. And may salawat and salam always be delivered to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had brought from the darkness to this bright modern era that we live in today. And last but not least, I'd like to thank the judges for giving me very special opportunity to compete in this contest. My name is Cindy Rahmawati, and I'm from Babu Salam Senior High School, standing here before you all to deliver my speech. I hope you're all feeling as amazing as I'm right now, but I'm not here to telling you about my feeling. Instead, I will deliver my speech with the theme, the role of indigenous people in the development of law in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, before I deliver my speech, I want to convey 2 points that I will discuss on this occasion. 1. Construction of national law. 2. The role of indigenous people in the construction of national law. Firstly, I will explain what the law is. Law is regulations in the form of norms and sanctions made with the aim of regulating human behavior or maintaining order, discipline, and prevent chaos. As we know, Indonesia is a state of law. In accordance with Article 1, Paragraph 3 of 1945 Constitution, it means every citizen is obliged to obey the laws and regulations that apply in Indonesia. In Indonesia, we adhere to continental European legal system or civil law. However, before the word civil law, Indonesia solved all problems with customary law, as the criminal code is a translation from Wetboek van Strafrecht, which is still valid today. Secondly, what indigenous people is. Indigenous peoples are groups of people who have lived in certain geographic areas for generations due to ties to ancestral origins, strong relationship with the environment, and value system that determine economic, political, social, and legal institutions. Now, the term indigenous people is increasingly official with the birth of United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People in 2007. Ladies and gentlemen, indigenous peoples are different from indigenous legal peoples. The concept of indigenous peoples is a common sense to refer to certain people with certain characteristics, while the indigenous legal community is a technical understanding of juridical upon a group of people who live in certain areas of residence and environment, have wealth in charge of safeguarding of the group, and have the rule of law and government. The concept of indigenous law was introduced by Cornelis van Vollenhoven, explores more deeply about indigenous peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, I will cover the first point is construction of national law. Lawrence and Friedman suggest that there are 3 important pillars in legal development, namely substance, structure, and culture. Ideally, the 3rd pillar of the development of national law must run in harmony, and balance because the 3 things are related to each other. During the Reformation period, especially 2009 until 2014 government period, the national national strategy legally law number 70, 2007, concerned 2005 until 2025 national long-term development plan. Chapter 2, letter G, attachment to law number 17 of 2007 concerning the national long-term development plan for 2005 until 2025. It's explained that efforts to relax the national legal system will conclude the development of substantial improvement of a more effective legal structure, involvement of all components of society who have high legal awareness to support development of national legal system that is aspired. Ladies and gentlemen, I will discuss the second point, which is the role of indigenous people in the construction of national law. The existence of Article 18b, paragraph 2, and Article 23I, paragraph 3, and also in the law sectoral, law number 5 of 1960 on agrarian principles, law number 7, law number 4 of 2009 concerning mining, mineral, and coal, law number 7 of 2004 concerning water resources, and other related laws has attempted the recognition and respect for the customary law community unit or KMA. Basically, The central government is obliged to organize a system of a prosperous government by fighting for the achievement of fulfillment of constitutional rights and traditional rights. For a long time, there were many regulations that promised security and peace for indigenous peoples. But from many cases in various courts, the uncertainty of indigenous peoples could proved in the case of land conflicts. Out of 1,400 cases of agrarian disputes in the West Sumatra Court, neither side of indigenous people was won. Here we can see that the role of indigenous people in the legal development should not be. Many promises have been made from legal development, but also many uncertainties are accepted. Ladies and gentlemen, therefore, we as the young generation must show a high spirit to uphold the rights of indigenous people who have left behind. From my previous discussion, it can be concluded. Indigenous peoples play an important role in the legal development of national law because the rights of indigenous peoples are human rights. And some points that I can cover today: 1. Construction of national law. 2. The role of indigenous people in the construction of national law. This is the end of my speech. I hope we can take a good lesson from what I delivered today. I ask forgiveness for any words and behalf which are not supposed to be. Law is order and good law is good order. I'm Cindy Rahmawati. Want to thank for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. So that's 6 minutes, 56 seconds. So that's it. That's the last contestant for this morning competition session. Maybe from the judges, does anyone want to convey their comments to our contestant? Dipersilakan pada Mam atau pada Bapak yang ingin menyampaikan komentarnya mungkin pada kontestan kita.
Anybody want to say something? Pak Iksan Kamula or Pak Yusirwan?
Ladies first, Bu.
Silakan, Miss. Amen.
To the point. Okay, thank you, Alin. Yes, congratulations for you all who has. I think you are all good, yeah. But several points that I have to say is you have to differentiate between English speech competitions and storytelling or debate. That is different thing. Yeah, you have to stress it. And some of you got all a good understanding and a good articulation as well. But in expressions, yeah, I think you have different ways to express your thinking. And the substance is, I think I can say that some of you or most of you have a good point in your substance, how to connecting between the theme of this speech and literature that you use, and then the theory, and then how you can understand the link between your knowledge, the theme, and your articulation. I think that's all from me. Maybe another judges. You want to say something? Maybe Pak Iksan or Pak Yuswan. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih, Mel, atas komentarnya. Semoga bisa menjadi motivasi lagi untuk lebih baik bagi para kontestan kita tentunya. And maybe next dari bapak-bapak nih.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Ibu Okta, Pak Yusirwan, and Ari, also Iksan Alia as judges, and all participants and the organizer. First of all, I will say to congratulations to all participants. You doing a great job. It's still not easy to compete in this competition. Usually, if you come to Padang and directly face to face with the judges, you will nervous than this moment. I believe like that, but that's why when you compete and participate in this competition, it's good for you to get experience and increasing about the knowledge. The secondly, it is also important that we have the requirement, which is like the minimum time for presentation, and don't forget the organizer will give like a penalty if you don't pass the requirement, such as the limit time is 7 until 10 minutes. So that's clear, and you can see about how your performance in the YouTube later. The thirdly, I would like to say to thank you for the organizer and the judges and the others, the participants. And you should believe that if you don't get like the good, the good achievement in this moment, it is not means that you fail. So you can learn and learn again. So maybe in the future you will get again. Lastly, I hope we can meet in Padang soon, and don't forget to keep safe and stay healthy. Just that, thank you for the others and good luck. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Maybe the other judges, please.
Ya, Sherwan first kali ya.
Okay, thank you so much, many all the jurists and the committee. Thank you so much to participate in this great competition. I just can see that from this competition we see the young generation of a law thinker, maybe law practitioner that care about our customary law, and I think they are all will be, some of them will be a great lawyer next time. I hope them, and I think the participants have worked hard and have shown their best in this competition, and they have tried hard to elaborate the discussion and try to dig about the philosophy, sociological, and practical aspect of the topic of the discussion. And however, some of them, I think, present a very deep and clear opinion about the topic of the speech. And I think that's all. And I hope all you will be successful in the future. Thank you so much. You also.
Okay, I think this is my turn before we go to the Isan to close. Is it my voice? Can you hear my voice clearly, actually, MC?
Yes, I can see.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you for having me to sit on this similar bench with my beloved lecturer, Pak Yoserwan, and also Bu Sri Octavia, and also to my colleague, Duo Isan, Isan Alia, and also Isan Kabula. First of all, I would like to congratulate for the top 10. You are do great and also in this round. But as we know that it is competition, so we have to decide the champions, and it is the hard situation and circumstances to decide what is the best one from the best and finalists. But maybe I would like to say congratulations, and also try to being better and better from time to times and by the practice in another competitions and so on and so forth. So lastly, I have to say thank you. I'm very enjoy for watching your performance virtually on my screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ari Wiryadinata. Maybe next, Pak Ihsan Alia. Silakan jika ingin mengatakan komentar.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to congratulate to all of the participants. You did a great job today, and of course, we will not find any flaws or any corrections to be given to your speech, because most of you, I would say all of you, you did a great job. Perfect understanding about how indigenous people shape our legal structures. But similar with Bu Okta, I would say that you need to clarify some points when it comes to talking about English speech, right? So you need to differentiate. You need to make some clear differentiation and classification about what is English speech and what is poetry or drama, something like that. And the next point that I want to highlight is you guys need to also understand that even though the percentage of the substance in this show is only like maybe around 40%, but you need to still understand the basic understanding of Indonesian law, like placing the degree of adat and positive law, the acts and all of the constitutions. You have to understand the order of this characteristic of laws in order to understand the basic structure of Indonesian law. And last thing that I want to say is that all of you, 10 of you, this is going to be a very important skills that you have to maintain for the rest of your career, even though you're not going to join a law school or any social faculties that demand you to have a good English skills. But trust me, if you have a good English skills, you will have a better exposure than your friends who doesn't have a better English skills than you. So what I want to say is that please try to always sharpen your skill set, especially in your English speech, and it's going to benefit you one day. That's it. I think congratulations to all of the participants. Thank you to all of the judges, and I see you in Padang.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Iksan. Saya rasa itu sudah ya mencakup semuanya. Dan juga dengan dari komentator para juri tadi, saya harap teman-teman peserta semua dapat termotivasi dan menjadi lebih baik setelah ini. By the way, we will announce the best 3 contestants soon. Maybe after the assessment and scoring is done. Mungkin nanti setelah final debat ya, mungkin sekitar jam 4 sore. So, terutama untuk peserta pidato, diharapkan standby sekitar jam segitu in our main room. Okay, before we close, I want to say thank you so much to all judges who already taking their time this morning to judge our contestant. Terima kasih Bu dan Pak atas kesediaan waktunya pagi ini. And also thank you to all contestants who have shown their best performance. I hope you will get the best result after this. Saya Angelina Augustin mengucapkan banyak maaf apabila banyak kesalahan. Saya sudahi. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke, thank you Alin. Pak Ihsan, Ari.
Ya, sama. See you.
Sehat-sehat Bapak Ibu.
Ya, sama-sama ya.
Bapak